Today is day 2 of the rosary making class, and today we are taking you directly to practical. I'm going to be teaching you today how to make perfect loop. Remember, in my last video, I said that to make a good rosary or to make a good jewelry, you have to begin by learning how to make a perfect loop. And that's where we're going to start today. From making the loops, we go into making bead dangles. And then we start showing you how to connect your bead dangles to make a decade of the rosary, and how to put your chain and put another bead dangle and put another chain and move into the second decade. And that way you continue until you complete a full rosary. And remember that in my last video, I advised that you download the course manual by clicking on the link below the YouTube video. I don't know if you did that, because if you have the course manual, you'll be able to go through that and see the theory of what we'll be practicalizing right now. So let's get down to the business. Let's get down to practical of rosary making, beginning with teaching you how to make perfect loop. So here we're starting with the practical of the rosary making. Like I said in the previous class, that wire is one of the main components that's needed in production of rosary and also jewelries. So this is the wire we are going to use. This wire is oxidized silver and silver plated 0.7 mm gauge wire. A beautiful, high quality, durable wire. This is the type of wire we use to make the rosaries here at the Rosary City. And that's how it is with everything we use are high quality material. So we will start by cutting out the wire. Now, in making rosary takes 59 beads. So when you want to cut your wire, the size of the bead or the length of wire you're going to cut for your rosary is determined by the size of bead you want to work with. Like today, we're going to work with this bead, 8 by 6 millimeter multifaceted crystal beads. And we're going to choose one. So let's choose this color blue and put it out here. So for the fact we are going to be making a rosary with 59 of these beads, then we're going to be using 1 meter of this wire or 1.2 meter, depending on the loops the person makes. So here, when you bring out your wire from the roll, then that's when you need the cutter. You cut your wire. So when you cut, you begin to stretch your wire. Like if you check the course manual, there are things that are used to stretch the wire. Some people use leather to stretch their wire, a piece of leather that like you can see in the course manual. Some people use a piece of cloth to stretch their wire. Some people use just their hands, like I do. I always use my hands to stretch the wire. So when you've stretched your wire, the next thing you need to do, you take your plier. Now I'm going to use the chain nose plier. Remember that we have chain nose plier, we have the long nose plier, but I normally use the chain nose plier. It's good for me because if you look here, you will see the chains, you see the stripes there, and these stripes helps to grip the wire just like it is now. It grips very well. So what you do after cutting your wire, the next thing you do, you create a loop in order to block one part of the wire so that the beads won't fall off. So that is it. This is a very perfect loop. I'm just using this to block one end of the wire. So then you turn and bring out the other end, the other pointed end. Here it is. And then that's when you begin to load your bead. So we go back to this. Remember that the beads, most of the beads come in strings. I've opened these and pulled them out from the string. If you check the beads we put for you in the rosary making kits, some of them come in strings. So you remove your bead from the string, then you pour the bead inside your palm. Then that's when you start loading your beads. So let's go first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, yeah, we need 59 beads for a rosary. So this is 10. Remember that rosary is 5 decades. And each decade consists of 10 beads. So when you get to this, then this is where you now see why the Rosary City is the best in the world. A lot of people will just put another bead to use as the Our Father's bead. But there are so many ways we do it in order to make the rosary so beautiful. If you check in your rosary making kits, which you ordered from us, the Rosary City, you will see this. This is called the bead cups. So these are oxidized silver bead cups. So I'm going to take 2 of these. So when you take two of these, we use this bead cup to do 2 things. Number 1, to beautify the bead. And number 2, to make the Our Father's bead prominent, so that when you're praying, it will be easy for you to know when you get to that place. So you put one of the bead cups, then you put the bead, then the next thing you put another bead cup in order to lock it. And look at how it is. You see how it goes? This is how beautiful it is. So when you see the rosaries made by the Rosary City, you will always see things like this. Also, you could use this bead cup to form your glory bead or Our Father's bead to cap them. Or if you also look at your kit, you will also notice this beautiful oxidized silver rose bud. You see that? So you can also use this to create, your Our Father's bead or the glory bead to the Father. You can also put this and then continue. All right. Also, if you check your box, you will see this beautiful square rose flower beads. We also use this to do the Our Father's bead. So you put it in your wire and then you continue to load. So let's choose to use this. It's either you use these bead cups or you use this beautiful rose flower or rose bud oxidized silver beads. So as it is right now, let's continue loading our beads. So we have decided to use this beautiful flat, square, oxidized silver, flourish centerpiece. So here we go. We continue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Great. So you keep the rest. So now look at what we have here. We have just 2 decades of the rosary. That's 20 beads, 10 here, 10 here, and you have this beautiful Our Father's bead. Then let's start immediately to make those rosaries. Let's see how it goes. So the next thing you need to do after doing that, you bring in the chain. Remember we said, okay, let me close these ones and put them aside. Remember that chain is another component that is very, very vital in rosary making. So here you go. It's time to bring the chain. That's where you need your cutter once again. So you check the length of chain you want to use. I'm going to cut this length. Okay. So when you've done that, you keep your chain aside, then the work starts. The first thing you do is to take your chain, the piece of chain, and pass it into the pointed parts of this wire. Then you now start making the rosary. This is where you need to pay attention. So you start in loop making, you start this way. There's 2 ways movement first, then you put the pliers here again and move the second time. Then you put it here, you balance your loop. You can see that there is a perfect loop. Then you put it here, put the plier here and open it. Slide in the chain and lock it finally. You see that? Then you use your finger, your large finger, and push the bead to that place. Then use the index finger to trap this bead. Then you measure out the size of wire you need to make the closing loop, because this is the first loop. Then you have to make this closing loop in order to get what is called the bead dangle. Then a lot of people will drop this, pick this one, cut, go back, pick this, but I don't do that. That wastes a lot of time for me. What I do, how I cut my wire is I just put it here and 1, 2, 3, and I cut the wire and I go ahead to do the loop 1, 2, then you pull it back and make it to go right inside, and you see you have another beautiful perfect loop. Then again, you put this same wire right inside your loop and then create another loop, 1 here, 2, then you push in this. You push this into the loop before you lock. You see that? You lock it. Beautiful. Then you drive another bead up to that place. You trap it again with your index finger. Then you cut. 1, 2, 3. You go again this way. 1, 2. Then let's speed it up now. You've seen what I'm doing. You put it right inside again. You go 1, you go 2. You lock. You push in a bead. You measure. You cut. You go 1, the 2. You lock it up again. And then you pass in this. Here you go, 1, 2. You measure it again. Each time you have to trap it with your index finger so that you'll be able to get accurate measurements of the wire you need to cut out for the closing loop. If you leave it this way, you might make a mistake, but when you trap it with your index finger, then use this finger to hold out the wire, then you'll be able to see the size of wire you need. You cut, you make the first fold, the second fold, you trap it to go right inside the hole so that it won't go out, it won't loosen. Okay, so let's try to speed things up. So I can get at least a decade of the Rosary done. So if you look, you see that we're already having a rosary made. We're already having a rosary made. From single beads to loading in the wire to having something like this to creating your bead dangle and then connecting your bead dangle right now to get what is coming out now to be a rosary. So let's get on, because I want to show you something that is going to be very, very, very important anytime you're making the rosary. Not as important as learning how to make your loop. Okay, now try to make sure that each time you are making the rosary, try to make sure that this, especially the loops, go inside. Like all these things, all the beads have holes. So make sure that your loops go in such a way that it will go inside and rest in that place, in that hole. Okay. So we go on that way and we are approaching the 10th one. The one I'm making now is the 9th one. Rosary making is a very beautiful art. If you learn how to make rosary properly, like we are going to teach you, it's a beautiful art. Rosary making is something that helps you with your meditation, because you can sit down and make rosaries for hours without saying a word. You don't need to talk, you just do your thing, and quietly you'll be getting to making your beautiful rosary. So now we've completed a decade of the rosary. You see that? See what it has turned into? This is just coming out to be a rosary. Then the next thing you need to do when you get to this place, when you make a decade, because you need to put that your Our Father's bead, then you bring back your chain. When you open the loop, you bring the chain, then you pass your chain right inside this place. Then you lock it up again. Then you drop this, you drop your plier and pick up your cutter again. Then you find out the check number of chains you want to put. This is called box chain. So I choose to put 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm cutting the 5th one. Here it goes. So once you do that, then you continue the work by putting your wire right inside this chain, and then you go back and continue your loop. 1, 2, you push the chain inside, the cut chain, you put it inside the loop, and then you lock. And then that's when you bring this beautiful ornamental Our Father's bead and push it in, and also trap it. Make sure you trap it with your index finger. Then you do the same thing, you cut. Then you create another loop here. Then when you've done that, you open it up again, and then take the chain again, you put it here. All right. Then you lock it back. Now you have this. Then count 4 again, because it has to be uniform. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you put your cutter in the 4th one. Again, you cut. On the 5th one, sorry. Then you continue to the 2nd decade of the Holy Rosary. So that's how it is. You continue. That's how you continue until you get a full rosary. So this is it. All right. So at this stage, we are going to close for the 2nd class, and I'm going to give you an assignment here. What you need to do, check the wire, the beads you have in your kit. Use the bead you have in your kit. I also want you to use this square or this rose to make 2 decades of the rosary. 2 decades. A decade, then here the glory be, and then another decade. You conclude that. One thing I want you to do, get someone to video you while you are doing it, so that we see how you are setting your plier, so when we know where to guide you and where to make corrections. So that's it. At this juncture, we come to the end of today's class, and those who have purchased the kits, you will see a lot of things we have there in your kits, which you're going to use. You have this, you have this, you have that. We have the crucifixes, because after we move into the complete production of a rosary, where we need the centerpiece, we put in at least 6 centerpieces in each pack. We put in 6 crucifixes in each pack. We also put in 6 small crucifixes that will be used to make the bracelets. And you can see we also put in the clasp, the lobster clasp or hook, and other things. So now this time all you need to use is cut out a little wire, and then use any of the beads in your pack. At least you have up to 4 crystal beads, 4 packs of crystal beads, and 2 packs of metal beads. Each has 70 beads in them. So the next thing you need to do, choose any of the crystal beads and do this same thing I did today, and make your presentation. let's do this during this weekend. Today is Friday. Let's do it, give it Friday, Saturday, and then Monday in the evening, we see what you've got. Thank you so much, and do have a blessed afternoon.